and in early March in eastern Saudi Arabia, where the majority of the country's oil reserves are located. In and around the city of Qatif, protesters marched demanding democratic reforms. As in Bahrain, they were mainly from the Shia community, a minority in Saudi Arabia. Also, as in Bahrain, security forces opened fire on crowds. King Abdullah, now 87 years old, has responded with the carrot as well as the stick, simultaneously launching a $100 billion spending program as well as a brutal crackdown.
I think, though, Saudi Arabia itself faces a choice in terms of reform or trying to clamp down on any dissent. I think that's a very stark choice it has. If they pursue a more security-led approach, is what we've seen in Bahrain right now and what we've seen in parts of the kingdom, I fear that the response may well then be something which is more sinister for the Saudi leadership.
The Saudi government denied fault lines permission to enter the country. So we tried to meet some of those who've been protesting outside Saudi's borders. The borders between these Gulf countries are often right in the middle of the desert. There's often no real delineation between one country and the next. We're right now headed to the frontier with Saudi Arabia over these dunes. We've arranged to speak with some Saudi Arabian dissidents about the situation in that country. On this occasion, they weren't able to cross the border, saying it was too dangerous. So we rigged up a satellite to speak to them over the internet. How big are these protests?
Every village, maybe they can reach 300 to 400 people. But once it was the biggest one during the protests. It was after the Saudi army get to the Bahrain. It reached 5,000 people in all Qatif. And I know there is so many people want to go out and want to shout for their rights, but they can't. Even they are afraid, or they can't guess what the Saudi government will do for them.
Do you feel that the authorities are watching and are trying to resist any spreading of this protest?
They always feel dangerous from the Shia. They are always afraid that we are just as soldiers of Iran. We are not.
You know, the interdynamics of the country is changing. There are difficulties. The government really failed to redress these difficulties. For instance, unemployment, poverty, alienation of different groups.
What are you calling for? What's your ultimate objective?
If people could have a voice and a choice to elect their officials, their representative, that could scrutinize the government, could limit the authority of the royal family, this is our ultimate goal.